So we're moving on to task 6. And with task 6, we're going to be changing these queries a little bit because we're going to be including columns that don't have aggregate functions. What our boss is interested in seeing is the average invoice amount from vendors, and they also want to see the vendor ID next to their average. So we're going to be including vendor ID this time, and we're going to be averaging invoice total. And in brackets, we're going to put the alias. And this is all coming from invoices. And if you include a column that does not have an aggregate, you have to use the group by clause, and you have to include the column in that clause. So any column that does not have an aggregate, we have to use group by. And then we do want to sort in descending order by the average invoice total. And we cannot use order by with an alias, so we're going to have to do order by and just give it the equation. We'll do that in descending order. And let's go ahead and run. So what we're looking at is the average for each vendor. So 110 is giving us the largest average. And then if we scroll to the bottom, we have vendor 97 that is giving us the lowest. And let's go ahead and move our closing comment down. And our next task is the boss likes what we did, but they would like to see more of a breakdown. So they actually want to see the vendor state and the vendor city. They want an invoice quantity for basically each city, the total number of invoices for each city, and they want the average for each city. So we are going to have to group by vendor state and vendor city, and then we'll be using aggregates to get the total number of invoices and the average invoice. So looking at our AP database, for invoices, we're going to be using invoice total. And then we don't have vendor city and we don't have vendor state. Those are in the vendor table. So we're actually going to have to do a join on those two tables. Vendor ID is the primary key in vendors, and it is a foreign key in invoices. So that is the column that we are going to do the join on. So we're going to use AP, and we're going to select vendor state, vendor city, and we're basically going to count up everything to give us a quantity. So we'll do the count asterisk, and we'll give it an alias of invoice quantity. And then we'll do average invoice total, and we'll give that an alias of invoice average. And this is coming from invoices, and we're going to be doing a join to vendors so we can get the vendor state and city. And what we're joining on is invoices.vendor_ID equal to vendors.vendor_ID. Now, because we have vendor state and city, and they are not involved with our aggregate functions, we do need to do a group by. And we're also going to sort by vendor state and city. So we'll also say order by vendor state, vendor city. And looks like I forgot my keyword by. And there we go. So we're going to be sorting and organizing everything by vendor state. Within state, we're going to be sorting by city. We will get a total count for invoices for each city, and then we're going to get the average invoice total for each city. So let's go ahead and run it. And so you can see what we have for Arizona. There is only one invoice. For Fresno, we had 19, and that was the average. And you can kind of scroll down. For Reno, we had 9, and that was the average. So the boss thinks that this is too much data, and they want us to modify this query. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to move my comment down. And what they would like us to do is only show information or data if the invoice total, the average invoice total, is greater than 50. So that's going to eliminate some of the, probably just this one, the really low one. So we aren't going to argue with the boss. We're just going to do what they say. So underneath group by vendor state and vendor city, this is where you put the having clause. So if you want to limit what you're getting from your aggregate, you have to use a having clause instead of a where clause. So we're going to say having average invoice total greater than 50. It's not going to affect the results that much, but we're going to do what the boss wants. So we did get rid of that very low amount. And apparently they are quite happy with us. So we are going to move our closing comment down. And we'll click save. And now the boss would like to see reps whose total sales are over 500,000 and whose minimum sales are over 100,000. So basically this is like an exception report because you're seeing the high and the lower end. So to give them this information, we're going to have to use two different tables in our examples database. We're going to have to use the sales rep table, and that'll give us the rep name or their ID. And then we're also going to have to use the sales totals table because we're interested in amounts. Okay, we're interested in that total amount. So we're going to say use examples. And we want let's see, select sales totals dot, and I'm going to pick rep ID. And then we want the max sales total. And we'll give that an alias of high sales. And then we want the min sales total. And we're going to give that an alias of low sales. And we are going to be getting this data from two different tables. So we're going to have to do a join. So we're saying from sales totals, join sales reps on, and what they have in common is the rep ID. So we're going to say sales reps dot rep ID equal to sales totals dot rep ID. And we have aggregates on sales totals, but we do not have it on the rep ID. So we're going to have to say group by sales totals dot rep ID. And we do need the having clause because the boss only wants to see maximums over 500,000 and minimums over 100,000. So we're going to say having max sales total greater than 500,000 and minimum sales total greater than 100,000. And we're going to go ahead and run this. And you should see 3 reps. Okay, and these are the 3 reps with sales over 500,000, and also their low sales are over 100,000. Okay, and it's showing you what the highs and lows are. So in this particular company, these are high producing reps. So we are going to go ahead and move our closing comment down and save our changes. And our last video set will be on using SQL Server extensions, and that will be in the next video.